age 14, a wonderful age, isn't it interesting that God chose a 14-year-old boy to be his instrument in the restoration of the gospel of Jesus Christ? It's almost impossible to believe it. I mean, I had a lady once who was not a member of the church who said, I can believe everything about your morals and your teachings, but I can't understand why Joseph Smith was chosen. She being British, she said, if he'd come to the Archbishop of Canterbury, it would be easier for me to believe. Do you have any thoughts about why God would trust a 14-year-old with the responsibility of bringing the gospel to every kindred, nation, tongue, and people, and, by the way, salvation to all those who had died without a knowledge of the gospel? Other than that, Joseph had nothing else to do. Any thoughts about why he'd pick on a 14-year-old person? Please, Jackson.
Well, I think it's because he had more of a life ahead of him than someone older than him would have. And he would have more of that desire to preach the gospel to everyone around him.
Good thought. Good thought. Other thoughts? Haley, please.
I think because he was actively seeking, and so God knew that because he had that desire, like Jackson said, and because he was really looking for the truth, that when God appeared to him in the first vision, that Joseph would act on that, and that he would know that that was an answer to his prayer.
This is a powerful answer, because God could have come to Joseph at any time, but he waited for Joseph to make the first move. Our Heavenly Father honors our agency and choice, and so I think that's a very perceptive thought, very perceptive. Any other ideas? Please, Eileen.
I think that because Joseph was 14 and a teenager, the Lord knew that teenagers are more willing to act upon something that they feel and are willing to learn learn on their promptings. And rather than someone younger they might not understand, or someone older, they might have already went through certain experiences. I feel like a teenager like Joseph that was willing to act upon what he thought and willing to seek out the Lord and really try to feel the Spirit and understand what the truth was.
Thank you.
Can I just say something here?
Please, please.
Well, I love that answer, because President Nelson and I have talked lately much about two sisters. One was 14, one was 12. You've probably heard their names, Mary Elizabeth Rollins and Caroline Rollins. And Mary Elizabeth and her sister watched the mobs in Independence throw, you know the story, throw the printing press out of the second window. Do you know that story?
Second story window.
Second story window.
Yeah.
And watched it crash to the ground, and then they watched the mobs throw out all these sacred revelations. And Mary said to herself, those are sacred records. And she and Caroline ran, imagine, you're 14, ran and scooped up all those papers and then ran in front of the mobs that were following them into a cornfield and hid, throwing their bodies over the sacred writings and preserved those writings, which they then took back to Brother Phelps, and they were made into, do you know what that was made into? The Book of Commandments, which then, once some more revelations were received, that became the Doctrine and Covenants. But just as Elena was saying, those two girls were willing to act upon the spiritual promptings they had.
At the risk of their lives.
At the risk of their
Because
lives.
these mobs were coming after them as fast as they could go, but those girls were faster.
Pretty courageous.